There are nights so quiet that one can almost hear the slow rhythm of their own heart. Nights when long-forgotten memories rise gently, like waves touching the shore. In a small valley, embraced by distant mountains, there lay a peaceful village that had seen countless seasons pass. In this village lived a middle-aged man, quietly and modestly. He had walked through half a lifetime, carrying with him joys and losses, triumphs and regrets. That evening, he sat on the porch, a cup of tea cooling slowly in his hand. The moon hung low, soft and golden like an old lantern, scattering light across the tiled roofs and stone paths. A breeze drifted by, carrying the scent of grass and damp earth after a gentle rain. And then, within the stillness, a sound arose, strange yet familiar. It was not the call of a flute, nor the chime of wind bells. It was a melody, tender as a passing breeze, delicate as dew upon a leaf, and yet it stirred his heart. He realized he had heard it before, long ago when he was a child. A song faint in memory, without a clear source, half remembered but never forgotten. He listened closely. The melody was soft like a whisper, as though someone was singing through the wind, hidden within the night. It carried no words, or if there had once been words, they had long dissolved into silence. All that remained was the gentle rise and fall of notes, offering comfort, offering warmth. For a moment, he closed his eyes. Memories drifted in. He saw the old house where his parents once lived, saw the flickering glow of an oil lamp in the darkness. He felt again the embrace that had once carried him into sleep, and perhaps, somewhere within that moment, a song had been sung. Now, across the years it returned, like an echo from the past, a reminder that beauty is never truly lost. When he opened his eyes, the village was still, unchanged. The moonlight stretched across empty streets and no one else seemed to hear the song. He smiled to himself, a smile touched with wonder and disbelief. Perhaps it was just memory playing tricks, or a dream arriving too early, called forth by a weary soul. And yet, in his heart, he knew he had truly heard something, a song only he remembered. That night, he lingered long on the porch. The melody did not fade. It lingered in the wind, flowing out of the silence itself. His heart grew lighter, though he could not explain why. The song was like a delicate thread, binding him to his childhood, to innocence once lost, and to the quiet comfort he had forgotten. When at last he rose and returned indoors, he felt as though he were walking inside a dream. Each step, each creak of the wooden floor seemed to echo with the song. He lay down, pulled the blanket over his shoulders, and closed his eyes. In the darkness, the melody continued, gentle as a lullaby. And just before sleep claimed him, a thought drifted through his mind. Perhaps tomorrow night, I will go in search of where this song begins. For sometimes, what we seek is not an answer, but the simple feeling of coming home to ourselves. Outside, the night remained still, but within him, the song lingered, soft, tender, like a secret meant for him alone. The following evening arrived, calm and tender, draped in twilight like a soft blanket. The man sat once more by the porch, his heart still echoing with the melody he had heard the night before. It had followed him all through the day, weaving in and out of his thoughts as though the song itself did not wish to be forgotten again. He tried to remember. Where had he first heard it? He searched the corners of his memory, turning over fragments of childhood long buried. A warm summer night, perhaps, or a winter evening by the fire. He could almost recall the faint outline of a voice, humming gently while he drifted into sleep. A mother's lullaby, a father's tune, Or perhaps a song sung by no one at all, just the wind carrying comfort into the ears of a boy who needed it. The melody was elusive, always near, yet always slipping away, like the reflection of the moon trembling upon ripples of water. He found himself humming it softly, trying to catch its shape. But each time the tune bent, curved, and dissolved, leaving only the feeling it carried: tenderness, warmth, and a quiet ache. That ache was not sadness, but something gentler. It was the ache of remembering what time had taken away. Innocence, simplicity, the kind of comfort that only exists when the world feels whole and unbroken. Listening to the song was like touching the edge of a dream, familiar and strange all at once. As the evening deepened, he rose and walked through the village. The streets were lined with old stone walls, touched by moss and shadow. Lanterns flickered behind paper windows, and the faint scent of firewood lingered in the cool air. Yet nowhere did the melody come from. It seemed to live only within him. He paused by the riverbank, where the water moved in quiet rhythm, reflecting starlight in broken shards. He listened. For a moment, the melody seemed to flow through the water itself, as if the current carried echoes of every memory, every voice, every forgotten lullaby that had ever been sung along its banks. The man closed his eyes again. This time, he saw himself as a boy, running barefoot across the fields at dusk, laughter tumbling out of his chest like falling rain. He saw nights when his mother would sit by the bed, humming gently, her hand brushing his hair. He remembered how the world felt vast yet safe, how every day ended in the embrace of that song. When he opened his eyes, the images faded, but the song remained, stronger now, closer. It was not merely a sound carried by wind or water. It was alive in his heart, stitched into his very being. He realized then that this song had never truly vanished. It had lived inside him all these years, waiting for silence, waiting for a quiet enough night when he could finally hear it again. Perhaps it had whispered to him in passing moments, while he worked in the fields, while he rested his weary hands after a long day, while he gazed at the stars but never listened closely enough to notice. Now, in the middle years of life, when his days had grown slower, the song had space to return. It came not to remind him of what was lost, but to remind him of what still lived within. A gentle wind brushed past, carrying with it the scent of blooming jasmine from a neighbor's garden. He felt the world soften around him. The air, the earth, even time itself seemed to pause. In that stillness, the song expanded, filling every corner of the night, until he no longer knew if he was remembering it, or if it was remembering him. The man stood for a long while, breathing deeply, allowing the melody to weave through him. He did not need to understand it, did not need to capture it. The song was not meant to be owned, only heard, only felt. And as the stars thickened across the sky, he whispered quietly, as though speaking to an unseen friend, "I hear you. I have not forgotten." The river answered with its gentle flow, the leaves rustled as if in agreement, and the night folded around him like an embrace. The third night arrived with a hush, as though the world itself was holding its breath. The man had spent the day restless, the melody playing quietly in the background of his thoughts, weaving itself between the tasks of daily life. He knew now that the song was calling, inviting him to follow. And so when the sun dipped below the hills and twilight bled into darkness, he stepped out once more, determined to walk where the music might lead. The village was wrapped in silence. Doors closed, windows dim, the lives of his neighbors tucked safely away in sleep. Only the moon watched over him, a pale lantern high above, casting its silver glow on the stones of the narrow street. He walked without haste, letting his feet find their way, guided not by logic, but by the soft pull of the melody humming in his heart. Beyond the last row of cottages, fields opened wide. It was here that the first firefly appeared, one single spark rising from the tall grass, glowing for a heartbeat, then fading, only to glow again. Soon another joined it, and then another, until the meadow was alive with flickering lights. The man paused, struck by their quiet beauty. The fireflies did not rush, did not fight the darkness. They simply shone, small lanterns against the vast night, and as he stood watching, he realized that their rhythm seemed to match the melody he carried within him. Each flicker of light, each gentle glow echoed the unseen song, as though the fireflies were dancing to it. He stepped forward, and the fireflies parted gently, creating a path of light. It was not a straight road, but a winding, shimmering trail, leading him deeper into the fields and toward the waiting forest. He followed, his heart steady, his breath calm, his body lighter than it had felt in years. The night air was cool and fragrant, touched with earth, grass, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers. Crickets sang softly in the distance, their chorus blending with the hidden melody, layering sound upon sound until the world itself seemed to sing. The man felt as though he was no longer walking through a meadow, but through the folds of a dream. With each step, memories stirred. He remembered running through these very fields as a boy, chasing fireflies with outstretched hands, laughing as their lights slipped through his fingers. He remembered lying in the grass with friends, pointing at the stars, making promises that time had long since scattered. He remembered sitting in stillness, listening to the hum of summer nights, when the world felt endless and alive. The fireflies led him onward, their lights weaving a ribbon of gold through the dark. Sometimes they rose into the air, swirling above his head like sparks from an unseen fire. Sometimes they hovered low, just above the grass, as though marking the very steps he should take. He followed without question, trusting the gentle guidance of their glow. As the meadow gave way to the forest's edge, the song grew clearer. No longer just a whisper, it now carried tones, soft and distinct, like the notes of a lullaby played on a forgotten instrument. The man's heart swelled with recognition. This was the song that had lived within him all along, now blooming into fullness. Coaxed awake by the fireflies and the night, the forest stood before him, tall and shadowed, its trees like silent guardians of secrets long kept. The fireflies streamed ahead, darting between trunks, their lights weaving into the darkness as if inviting him to follow deeper still. For a moment, he hesitated. The forest was vast, and he had not walked its depths since youth. Yet the melody wrapped around him, tender and insistent, promising not fear but remembrance, not danger but peace. He took a breath, let it out slowly, and stepped beneath the trees. The air changed instantly, cooler, denser, filled with the scent of moss and leaves. The canopy filtered the moonlight into scattered silver fragments. Every now and then, a firefly would pause to glow brightly, marking the way forward, before darting ahead to join its companions. The deeper he went, the more the world outside seemed to fall away. There was no village, no time, no weight of years. Only the forest, the lights, and the song threading through it all. He walked as though in a trance, not lost but found, every step taking him closer to something he had always known but never fully reached. At last, the fireflies gathered in a small clearing. Their lights pulsed gently, rising and falling in unison, as though they too were breathing. The man stood at the edge of the clearing, surrounded by glow and shadow, the melody swelling inside him until it was no longer just heard, but felt in every corner of his being. He closed his eyes, and the world disappeared. There was only the song, the forgotten song, filling him with a deep, abiding peace. It was not a tune of sorrow, nor of longing, but of belonging, of being held by something larger than himself. When he opened his eyes again, the fireflies lingered, patient and still. The forest was quiet, the night unbroken, yet he knew this was only the beginning. The path of fireflies had led him here to the threshold of something deeper, something waiting to be remembered, and with that knowing, he stepped forward, ready to follow wherever the song would lead. The man stood in the clearing, bathed in the glow of countless fireflies, his heart still trembling with the rhythm of the strange song. He closed his eyes and listened to the breath of the forest, to the soft whisper of the wind through the leaves, and to the echo of a melody that lingered deep within. Suddenly, from a high branch above came a low, resonant hoot. He opened his eyes, lifted his gaze, and met a pair of round eyes that glimmered like two small moons. It was an owl, watching him silently, as if it had been there all along. Its wings shifted gently, and within a moment, the owl descended, alighting on a low stump near where the man stood. There was nothing threatening in its presence. On the contrary, it radiated a calmness, like an old friend unexpectedly found again. The man whispered softly, "Do you hear this song as well?" The owl tilted its head, its eyes shimmering as though they contained the whole night sky. Though it spoke no words aloud, he heard a voice, not with his ears, but within his own mind. "I hear it. I have always heard it. This song does not belong only to you. It belongs to all who have ever opened their hearts to memory and to dreams." The man froze. All this time he had believed himself alone with those elusive notes, and yet now a creature of the night confirmed it, understanding more deeply than he could have imagined. "Then, where does it lead me?" he asked, his voice trembling, half with anticipation, half with fear. The owl spread its wings slightly, as if pointing toward the depths of the forest. The voice sounded again within him. "It leads you home. Not to a place, but to yourself. There are pieces of you long lost, things forgotten in the hurried passing of life. This song is the red thread, guiding you back to them." The man lowered his head, his hands tightening as though trying to hold on to something slipping away. A flicker of memory stirred. A distant face, a gentle smile, and sometimes a faint lullaby he once heard in his youth. "But I am old now. What is left to find?" he asked, his voice low with sorrow. The owl gave a short, decisive call. Then the voice filled his mind once more. "The night is never old. The sky is always new when the moon rises. Your journey is not over. As long as your heart still yearns, you will find what you seek." The words pierced through his uncertainty like a shaft of light. He raised his head and saw the owl's wings unfurl, the glow of the fireflies reflecting upon its feathers until they shimmered like 1,000 tiny stars. The owl lifted off, flying toward the shadowed path of the forest. It did not rush, but moved slowly, as if ensuring that he could follow. The man hesitated for only a moment before drawing in a deep breath and stepping into the dark. With every step he felt himself leaving behind the familiar world, venturing into a realm woven of memory and dream. The owl glided ahead, its presence steady, its wings silent. Around him the fireflies continued to glow, countless little lanterns lighting his way. There was no fear now, only expectation, an awareness that something important was unfolding, something he had been seeking his whole life, though he had never known it until this very night. The man followed the owl, stepping deeper into the quiet forest. Beneath the dense canopy, the fireflies' glow hung like suspended stars, illuminating each of his careful steps. The world felt different here, as if he had stepped out of reality and into another realm, a place where time no longer existed. The familiar song still echoed within him, near and far, guiding his every step. The owl glided slowly ahead, its feathers shimmering softly in the firefly light, giving him an inexplicable sense of comfort. After walking a while, the forest began to thin, and before him appeared a stone gate covered in moss. Faded carvings hinted at times long past. The gate was unlatched, only slightly ajar, and as he touched it, it creaked open, revealing a vast garden hidden deep within the woods. The garden seemed like an old dream, cracked stone paths overgrown with grass. Bushes of flowers once vibrant now faded, yet the air still carried their familiar fragrance. In the center lay a small pond, its surface smooth and calm, reflecting the moonlight like a mirror of memories. The man stepped in, and his heart tightened. He recognized this place. As a boy, he had run here with friends, sat by the pond listening to his mother softly sing lullabies, gazed at the star-filled sky when youth and dreams overflowed his chest. Over the years, the garden had been forgotten, faded into neglect, and eventually vanished from his memory as if it had never existed. Now, under the gentle moonlight, the garden unfolded before him again, as if awaiting his return. The owl landed on a nearby branch, its eyes still watching, not urging, not forcing. It seemed only to fulfill its role, guiding him to exactly where he needed to be. He walked slowly through the garden, each step awakening memories. In a small corner he saw a wooden bench, now decayed, the very place his father had once sat quietly, sometimes reading, sometimes simply listening to the wind. By the edge of the pond, he noticed a flat stone where he had spent countless hours, sketching the naive dreams of youth. He paused, sitting by the pond, gazing at the moonlight dancing on the water. Then, from somewhere near, the song arose once more, not faintly this time, but clearly, as if someone were singing right beside him. The voice was gentle, familiar, touching his heart so deeply that it hurt. It carried the breath of his mother, of childhood, of the days when life was simple and safe. Tears ran down his cheeks, not from sadness, but from a mixture of joy and wistfulness. He whispered softly, I had forgotten. For so long, the song responded, not in words, but with warmth that spread through him, like an invisible hand touching old wounds, soothing and healing them. He sat for a long time, letting the moments pass. The garden was silent, save for the soft rustle of leaves, the occasional deep hoot of the owl, and the melody that lingered, endless and persistent. In that moment, he understood that he had found a lost piece of himself, a fragment of his soul that had been forgotten, now returned. And yet his journey was not complete, for the song had more to guide him to, more memories waiting to be remembered. The man sat by the edge of the pond, eyes half closed, listening to every note of the familiar song. It was no longer just a sound, but a warm current flowing through every cell, weaving through his memories, awakening fragments long lost. He realized that this song did not belong to time or place. It belonged to the very moments he had lived, the joys, the sorrows, and even the hopes he thought had slipped away. It was a bridge between past and present, between the grown man he had become and the child he once was, innocent and free. Around him, the garden was silent. Only the occasional hoot of the owl, the rustle of leaves, and the moonlight reflecting on the water accompanied him. Yet in that quiet space, he felt the whole world, the laughter of childhood, the song of the wind, his mother's lullaby, and dreams that had never truly aged. He opened his eyes, watching the fireflies' lights dance upon the pond's surface. Each flicker seemed like a note, harmonizing with the song within him, forming a private symphony meant only for him. A smile spread across his face, peace filling his being. At last, I have found it, he whispered. Memories he had believed lost returned, but not with heaviness or regret. They came gently, like a breeze, reminding him that everything he had experienced was precious, shaping the man he was today. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and let himself drift with the song. Each note carried away worry and fatigue, leaving only profound serenity. In that moment, he was no longer just a tired man in the world, but a part of the garden, of the night, of the light and music itself. The song carried him further, into corners of memory he had never remembered, into the sweetness and goodness that life had given him. He smiled at himself, at what had been lost and at what still remained, knowing that no matter what tomorrow brought, this song would always live in his heart, gentle yet strong, guiding him back to himself. And in the silent night, the garden seemed to sway with the song, harmonizing with the fireflies, harmonizing with his heart, creating a symphony that only he could remember, Only he could hear. He closed his eyes deeply, letting everything drift away, letting the song continue to echo, carrying him into a peaceful, sweet sleep, filled with memories and warmth.